Exercise 24, a marriage of sound and breath. Sit quietly and attend to the presence of sounds. You can use speech, music, or any sounds that happen to appear. Don't get trapped in the labels and significations that sounds bear, but concentrate on the quality of the sounds themselves. This amounts to learning to see more deeply into all communicated presences, rather than being stopped by their surface partitioning. To help this insight develop, it is necessary to expand, quote, time, unquote, more. And this can be implemented by breathing in a slower and more balanced way. It is important to emphasize that breathing here is very free and balanced, not forced or stressed in any way. Nor should attention to breathing be a specific mental act. Let breathing and awareness become the same. Allow your breathing to become so calm that you can experience a deep silence and meditative quality within your throat center. Let your awareness be sensitive to the inner quality and energy of the breath itself. Then you can discover that breath itself has many subtle tones. Since the throat is a center corresponding to timing and the appreciation of time, try to integrate an attention to sounds with a keen but gentle attention to your breathing and your throat center. Repeating, since the throat is a center corresponding to timing and the appreciation of time, try to integrate an attention to sounds with the keen but gentle attention to your breathing and your throat center. Rather than doing one and then the other, try to marry the two attendings so that they become a sound throat breathing unified presence. Through balanced attention and breathing in the throat center, the head and the trunk of the body can be better integrated. Commentary 24. If this exercise is practiced in 45-minute sessions 4 times a day, it will assist in an appreciation of time that will in turn allow a more incisive knowingness to appear. This knowingness will be able to remain undeceived by meanings and referrings, and will perceive a shining, unenfolded energy available in all sounds and presentations. This unenfolded quality indicates that this energy has never been obscured or folded up into any hidden centers of presentations, but is primordially available, promoting physical vitality and longevity, as well as a new sensitivity to time and knowledge. Time, space, and knowledge, a new vision of reality. Tartang Tulku, 1977. And that one is out of print. I have a PDF, and it's not in great shape. I can put it up on the site, podcast.compassionaterecovery.us. Under the section of the website under Teachings is everything that I cover and discuss in the show, some things that we're moving towards and working with, some references to various types of Buddhist recovery, some of the original earlier ideas, various things to try to support what we're doing, trying to bring you Dharma, trying to bring you ways to apply Buddhist recovery in my own view, in my own version, within the systems and traditions that I practice. And let's just say it's not really a tradition at all, but it is, delivered in systems and packages in different times by different people. Welcome to the 12-Step Buddhist Podcast, episode 82, How to Take Refuge in Recovery, Part 2, Objects of Refuge. Well, my apologies for being out of touch for 2 weeks, and I haven't missed an episode, haven't missed a weekly episode in quite some time, but unfortunately, I was seized with a suffering so intense and acute. You notice my speech might be a little different there. I don't know if you notice it, but I sure do. My voice is and has been important to me. It's my main chakra. However, we are in a samsara and are subject to birth, sickness, old age, and death. In this particular bardo, or in-between stage, and this is why it's interesting to apply long life practices, and this is why it's interesting to work on time, such as we did in the reading by Tartang Tulku, and this was referenced from one of my very main and closest instructors as a reference point in a very deep retreat on Refuge and Bodhicitta. I think we did two. I can't even remember. There's so many in a row, and then they're late at night for days at a time. But what happened at the end of one of the retreats is that the pain shot through the side of my face, and I mean, like, man, it hit me hard. And it hit me fast. And, I'm doing this practice as I, pass on to you in the show, and as I've got up onto the website there, as I've received instructions on and try to apply and integrate into my life. As I say, you can say a 12-step Buddhist, but I'm more of a Buddhist in recovery. I'm more of compassionate recovery, and I don't mean it the same way anyone else does. I couldn't mean it the same way anyone else does. So you might have a question or a problem with some of the views, but everything is substantiated by two things: factual facts of teachings I've received and factual facts of experiences. And then, of course, my interpretation, analysis, synthesis, integration, and explanation. And that's for me, for you, for clarity, for us to be on the journey to join together. So the main practice of not resisting suffering. It's a lot easier when the suffering isn't an ice pick in the side of your face. This resulted in going to a dentist, sitting in the chair. They put you in the chair where you're pretty vulnerable. They don't really talk money. I don't know. They just kind of assume that they are just going to charge what they're going to charge. And I'm like, you guys, you put me in the chair, I'm leaning back. I don't like this. If you're going to talk to me about money, don't put me in a position of vulnerability. I don't have money for this right now. This is supposed to be all covered, this and that. It was a whole deal. I said, look, all right, if you're going to have to extract the tooth, another tooth, there's several extractions in the past year and a half. So if you're going to have to extract another tooth, she says, I'm like, what are we going to put there? Well, et cetera and so forth, $568. I'm like, hey, look, I said, I don't know. She goes, well, when I've got you open, I pull it out. That's the time to do it. Otherwise, we got to pull you back open. Might not take, might not work, might be a drag. I'm like, hey, you know what? I hate every second in this motherfucking chair. I don't hate you personally, but I hate every second of this motherfucking chair. And I'll tell you what, it goes back. It goes back to 5 years old, and I'm not playing games with you. And she says, oh, we're not going to hold you down and put a gas mask on you, which is a complete, actual, absolute, she's in another dimension as a clinician. From understanding, and she's a great clinician, I'm not saying that, but her understanding, which is, of course, outside her field, but please understand, you can't just say PTSD is you think someone's going to do the same thing to you. It's a fire alarm. Read Compassionate Recovery. This is, Bessel van der Kolk. I studied him. I was referred to him by Nikki Myers many years ago in a Yoga of 12 Steps workshop in San Jose. She said Bessel van der Kolk and Peter Levine were the man. And I went to them and I followed their stuff for years and years and over time, and met Bessel van der Kolk a couple of times, told him about Compassionate Recovery. His book is like a massive, unbelievable, mind-blowing bestseller with like 15,000 reviews on Amazon. This really caught on, and his book is very technical and very difficult. And I've been to the conferences, and I've got graduate education in psychology, and I'm not in this particular neuro field, so I had to really grab a lot of focus, to get the information to you from them. And I put it in a better package for understanding addiction and recovery specifically. It's not mentioned on the side, the addiction and recovery. Do you see what I mean? It's not an afterthought. It's not something, and I don't, to be honest, I'm not going to get all off into who I like and who I don't like, but I thought Bessel van der Kolk's work was the shit, and I put it to use in my life, and Nikki Myers turned me on to it back in the day, a long time ago, and this is where we're coming from. The fire alarm, you have to understand the mechanisms, and I can't talk about it in usually like a 23-minute show, but read the book, Compassionate Recovery. It's there. Ask at your bookstore. Go to barnesandnoble.com, amazon.com, audio, every format, hardcover, everything. I recommend it in print. Put it in your hands. Email. If you put the book in your hands, you can email me for work and support. And I'm not hustling you. I'm saying people contact me. If you read what I write is from my soul and my truth and my effort and my intention, is to guide and enhance and support you and help you get to a path, understand a path, practice a path, get the fruit realization, total liberation, Buddha. Boom, bang, 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 pow, pow. Whereas the homie said, boom, fire. I won like a $300 pack of seeds from this YouTube flow, and I was like, oh my God, it was a stream. The guy was so high, he's dabbing big fat dabs, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to pick a random number, and I go 457, and I don't know, I was just sitting there like with nothing, just kind of spaced, and my tooth was aching. It was last Friday night when I would have put my show out, and I'm sitting here and like it's just aching and aching. And the thing I wanted to say, like let go of the resistance to suffering, which is the teaching and the practice. So we've been talking about, and it's all here, referenced all, it's all there in the shows and on the podcast site. But it's really hard to apply. And then there's tramadol, and I'm an addict in recovery, and hey, listen, I'm not playing with some opiates. I mean, you can just see I've known many. Listen, I've been watching pill people for many decades. People do gnarly shit for pills, man. They get people break bones to go to the ER. They get blacklisted. Opiates is not a thing, not a road I want to go down, right? But let me tell you something. When that pain hit me, and I look back on it now, and I was kind of like really worried about it. Like really, I saved those tramadols for the moment when when there is absolutely nothing else that you could possibly do, and you need pain management, right? And I don't want to play games and such with my addiction. You could think of me like as the hardest core NA prison motherfucker that you ever met, but I'm not. I didn't go to prison, but I'm just saying, like, I have a very, ruthless attitude. But when the pain hits you, I'm also not being stupid. And you have to somehow take responsibility. I'm alone. I don't have anybody around me. I don't have a wife or a doctor to give it to. If you're watching New Amsterdam, it's yet another nurse or doctor. If you watch Nurse Jackie, people are addicted and they have to have the other person give it. The other doctor's in NA and they're in NA and he's going to hand out the meds for her. I don't have anybody to do that. It's pain in the middle of the night. I talked to my doctor about it. She said, here, don't take any more of that. Do a mouth rinse. I said, all right, no tramadol. She goes, I respect your sobriety as much as you do. I said, all right, I'm down. Thank you, sister. Okay. Appreciate you, and followed the advice. But then we came around again to this extraction, and I had to go, look, the dentist says, and her partner's in recovery, and I was like, I actually gave them a copy of my book. So they got me in. I was like, I'm going to do something for you. What can I give you? I've got a book, Guys in Recovery. I'm like, here, read Compassionate Recovery. You're in the clinical field. Understand something. Get back to me. I just had to give her, look, she says, I'll give you some tramadol. I said, all right, I'm going to put it, because I ran out, I'm going to put it up there on the shelf for the moment that you cannot face any more seconds. And you've put the ibuprofen and the acetaminophen and the ice and the meditation and the not resisting suffering and every powerful tool and every medicine practice and thing you can possibly do. And then it's also, you don't have time. So it just hits you suddenly, boom, middle of the night or something, and I got to where I had one of those. Well, I got to the point where on the first night, last Friday night, I had one of those at bedtime. I was really doing the same thing that the doctor on New Amsterdam was doing for his girlfriend doctor, saying, okay, you can take this now, but then you have to manage your pain for 6 more hours. But if you wait an hour, you'll have like 8 hours of pain relief. And it's not about, is it about instant relief or is it about the most effective use of pain management, about this prescription? And I found that to be very useful thinking in terms of prescription medications and pain management in recovery. And also as a Dharma practitioner, I don't want to talk out my ass. I'm not able to withstand them cracking my tooth out of my jaw, scraping the bone out and giving me cadaver bone. So I told her I'm sitting there and I go, look, I'll text my friend and I'll ask him. And then I don't know if he texts me back by the time you pull that tooth out. Boom. She pulled the tooth out and she's like, well, ding. My friend texted me, he Zelled me, I paid it. I was able to get the extra layer so I could get an implant if I could ever figure out. Maybe I got to go to Mexico again for that. But the deal is, like, it was intense and the recovery was 2 weeks. And there was a highlight that I was just sitting here completely trying to manage it last Friday night. And she said, Darren, I hope that you turn the corner because my next move is invasive. And I'm like, we don't want to get invasive, okay, lady? We don't want to get any more invasive than we done got. So don't. I said we better turn the corner. So Saturday the corner turned. And here I am the following Friday, I'm able to do the show. I feel better, much better, much better. But it took me 2 weeks. First, it was the coming on of it during the 10-day bodhicitta and refuge retreat. I'm trying to be concentrating. It's 3 a.m. I'm really focused on meditation and working on this practice of not resisting suffering and working on a supreme bodhicitta. And then here I am presented with, it's like being in AA. It's like when you do step 6 and 7, duck. Because, like when you start doing work, shit starts flying, Shit starts flying. And it flew, but I only had to have that one night of the opiate, and it doesn't really kill your pain, It kind of makes you able to deal with the pain in a way, and it's not even strong enough. Like it would have needed to be a much more powerful, like administered somewhere type of opiate. But I'm not going to the ER kind of pain. But if I didn't have those tramadol, it would have been going to the ER. I would have been screaming for someone to help me, probably. It's unbearable, right? So what do you do in such instance when you're in recovery and you're alone? Come on, you don't have a sponsor to hand out your pills. Do you become an addict who starts breaking your own teeth for pills? Someone who's on the street, a poor vet who's got addicted from shrapnel and oxy, and what are you going to do? I mean, it's so bad, and I'm in recovery. I'm trying to help people in recovery. I'm trying to help you with my experience. How can I work with this as a Buddhist in recovery and be in refuge and be in bodhicitta, you see, and apply this? And sometimes you got to take the fucking pill. That's what I'm saying. Well, take it wise, careful, and discernment. You got to have, consciousness about yourself and your deal, And I spoke with my friend also about it. We got sober together in 1984. He's remained sober since then. As you know, I relapsed in 1994. I've been sober since 12/4/97. Anyways, it turned out to be an intense 2 weeks. And it was somehow me trying to apply and practice what I've been trying to share with you in such an intense way that, we took a tooth out, and I was worried about, if you ever watch iZombie on Netflix, she gets psychic on and sees visions from the brain of the people she eats, and she works in the morgue. And then she solves the crime so she could see through the victim's eyes. And I'm like, to the dentist, I'm like, hey, you seen iZombie? I'm not going to get some DNA, am I? And get up in some kind of zombieism. And she just looked at me. She didn't miss a beat. And she just goes, no. And I go, well, okay. So I'm not going to be a zombie. She goes, no, you don't have enough DNA or RNA. I'm like, yeah, all right. I hope I'm not going to be a zombie. I hope I'm not going to get psychic. I'm very, very, very acutely hyper over sensitive for the planet Earth. I've been this way since day uno that I can ever remember. So how do we apply, what is refuge and what is bodhicitta when you're trying to be in suffering? Well, I take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in the Dharma, I take refuge in the Sangha. What is that? Some idea, some concept. You got to start somewhere. And we're going to go into it in the next episode, in the next show, because kind of like had to kind of get through that with you and just say, look, I was able to have the last one of the tramadol and then put it back away, or it's not really away, but it's to the back of the line there. It's not in my face. And I'm not some junkie who trips. I'm not trying to be some addict who's got to deny themselves health care proper, And I did what the doctor said. I'm going to go, okay, I broke down the ibuprofen instead of taking, I did be an addict on ibuprofen for a minute, because rather than read the label, I thought I knew what I was doing, and I took the 800s of ibuprofen with 1,000 of Tylenol PM. And I did that every 6 hours with the antibiotic, and I thought I was doing right. I go in there, and the doctor says, "You're killing yourself. What are you doing? You're going to shut down your organs." So we break it up so you can do pain management. You see, this is a topic for people in recovery. I'm in recovery, 25 years, 12/4/97. So I'm trying to get through this alone and share with you how I did it and how it works. And it's a little bit tricky, I really had to be very, very disciplined with myself. I did speak with my friend who supported me financially on getting it done. And I did work with my circumstances as my teaching and system instructs, or invites me to do. So the situation is under control and it passed. And so the object of refuge means that there's a me and there's a thing. Let's just start with it. Or there's a me and there's a thing. I don't know what the thing is. It's a higher power. I don't know what the thing is. It's a Buddha. I'm just saying to you, get off the trip of the Buddha having to be a person that you attribute human characteristics to. And he was just a guy like us and he learned this. And if you read anything or understand anything about any teachings in Dharma, whether it's Sutra, Tantra, Mahamudra, Mahayoga, Ati Yoga, but how can we put into practice refuge when we don't even know what that means? Well, what does it mean to take refuge? It means, dang, man, somehow I got to trust somebody. I'm sinking here. I got to reach for some Dharma. I got to reach for some medicine. The Buddha's the doctor, the Dharma is the medicine. And the nurse is the one who gives me the pill. And you have to understand this isn't exactly tied to actual concrete, like if you want to think about Jesus as a man and Buddha as a person who was in a thing, and okay, Siddhartha, it's all cool, I get it. But let that not be the only thing you know. Read sutras, study tantras, receive initiations, do practices, acquire wisdom, gain experience, apply it to life. So refuge on one hand means there's somebody who can help me and I got illness, I'm suffering, I want some help. It sounds to me like step 1, 2, 3 in AA. That's why I wrote this in the 12-Step Buddhist. But in the 12-Step Buddhist, it was 2009. I've progressed somewhat. And so has the community of Buddhists in recovery. When I started with the 12-Step Buddhist, writing it in 2008, there was nothing out there. There were Buddhists who were in recovery, and there were people who were starting to do things, but none of this existed. Now we have a lot more information, we have a lot more opportunity, and I can share with you what I feel and understand and learn and practice about refuge now, after we've studied compassion. It's no holds barred. I don't play games about what I'm sharing with you. So what we get in refuge is, first, I am sick. And I need help. I need healing. I got a problem. I need some help. It's not a little tiny thing, though. You got to understand the root of suffering is deep. It goes to infinity. It goes back to all karmic origination beyond a beginning that can be found. It can't be found. Go find it. Find it. Let us know. Write a dissertation. I don't know. Start a YouTube channel or a TikTok. I'm going to get on TikTok. I don't know. I'm going to start sharing my thoughts when I feel like I'm ready. I've got a great backdrop now. I fixed up my space. I've created a great space for myself while the suffering was going on. And I made it through the suffering by just trying to take refuge and continue to practice. And continue to show up for the Zoom teachings and the classes and the retreats. And continuing to offer service to the teaching. And to work on my own cultivation of my own wisdom and understanding. To apply practices and methods that ultimately liberate from suffering completely. And this is not a thing that I just really need to. In Tibetan Buddhism, they usually clarify by saying Buddha Shakyamuni. If you go to Bön, or B-O-N, Burn or Bone, or Tibetan Buddhism, it goes back, Buddha Shenrab, I believe it's called, 18,000 years ago, something like this. So these Buddhas are incalculable, right? There are many Buddhas in molecules in space, but even that's conceptual elaboration. Being in refuge at one point means, hey, I need some help. Somebody's got something for me to get better, feel better. whomever that doctor is, but here in the case it's the Buddha, it's Buddhism, it's the Dharma, it's the teaching. Let's just call it Dharma. Over 70 meanings of big D Dharma and little d Dharma. I don't need to go there to try to understand it. I understand the lineage and the teaching and the practices, the applications, the methods. I try to connect you with those. The method of refuge is to be in the medicine already. In a sense, and this isn't some stupid visualization trick or some positive mental imagery kind of trick, although it can be thought of in a sense, but it isn't like some sham that you get out there and pay thousands of dollars for. Who knows? Are people getting healed and cured? I don't know. I never have been, so I got to work with the ancient systems of Tibetan medicine and yoga, work with Dharma teachings in the best way possible, control the flow of energy, work on long life practices. But the application of refuge is to already relax in the presence of the situation. And as Igor, if you listen to Igor and go to the podcast.compassionaterecovery.us website, if you listen to Igor, he'll point you in the right direction. And there are courses that are secular and very good. And he put a little video together for me. You can check it out because he was on one of the episodes and people really liked it. And I'm getting more. I'm working with more teachers and instructors and so forth. As long as we can kind of work it into the. I've got a Christian. I've got a pretty deep Christian thing coming from a person that I know very deeply, very well. So this idea of refuge coming from different angles and perspectives, y'all. I mean, you got to look at it from the outside looking in first. There's something. There's a me. There's a it. I got to take refuge in it. I got to show up to the thing. Got to learn the deal. You got to do something about it. After some years, you got to understand what works and what doesn't, and how fast it works. What's a symptom? What's a band-aid? What's a cure? Dharma is cure. It's cure to samsara. It's cure to suffering, cure to samsara, cure to infinite cycles of rebirth. So what do? We can learn and listen, but at some point, you got to just relax and be in the state of knowing it's all good. You just got to knowing it's all good. Knowing it's all good. But take out the it and just all good. Have an inhale, exhale, all good, all y'all. Until next week, peace out and namaste.